All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. Monday, after the first weekend of football. Thanks to everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. I'm Jay Croucher. This is Drew Dinsick. Lots to break down. We're going to talk about last night's game, all the chaos that comes out of that, particularly on the Dallas side. We're going to look ahead to where we see the early value in week 2, and then we're also going to preview Monday Night Football. Drew, just overall, how are you feeling after the first Sunday?
Very good. That was a great day. It was a day for the dogs. My biggest positions were on a couple of unders that ended up being no sweats. Green Bay under, Baltimore under, and then the coup de grace, the Tampa Bay Dallas under at 22 points, lowest scoring total of the entire day. And it didn't even really feel lucky, which is the best part about it. So very, very solid performance from, in my accounts here for week 1, and cannot sleep on my success. We go right back to it here because week 2 looks like it's going to be tough to make some plus EV bets, but I'm excited to take on the challenge.
Indeed. All right, let's get stuck into the Cowboys. I think they're definitely the biggest story out of week 1. And it certainly seems like their season is over. They've drifted significantly for the NFC East, for the conference, to plus 500 and plus 2,200 respectively with Dak Prescott. Looks like he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with that broken hand. Also, not to be overlooked, Connor McGovern, high ankle sprain. Javon Curse, also injured. Tyron Smith was already out. They already didn't have any receivers beyond CD Lamb. Are the Cowboys just a total write-off? And if so, how are you attacking them in the betting market?
It's a really important question because there's a lot of high-profile Cowboys games left this season. I don't know if you know this, but they like to put the Cowboys in primetime a lot. But that was a brutal blow to their chances of doing anything this season, I would say. Even though I don't really think that the downgrade from Dak to Cooper Rush is as much as the market is implying. Really, the bigger problem is just the entire Dallas Cowboys team lacks talent at some really important positions. And I think, there's only so much Micah Parsons can do to elevate this defense, considering some of the other holes that they have, particularly in the run game. They were getting out physicaled like it was like they weren't even really running their normal run fits at all. And I would kind of look to this Cowboys team now and what they do this week from a roster standpoint to tell us what they really intend to do this season. I don't think that the marriage between Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy is working out especially well. We know that Sean Payton is kind of sitting in the wings to take over his, as we all expect at some point in time, the Cowboys head coaching job. And so this may be just a year where you develop some of the young players on your roster. You don't make a move for a quarterback to try to, replace Dak Prescott for the next 8 weeks. And you just kind of, find yourself into a top 10 pick and get, another blue chip player to build some of the, to try to turn over this roster, because even with a healthy Dak, these Cowboys aren't competing for anything this year. And that's the real kind of bummer about this, which is that if Dak had made it through this game healthy, then, maybe people are talking about, well, it's time to buy low on the Cowboys. And we could just sit back and say, well, I don't know about that. There's still, problems X, Y, and Z here with this team. So, I'm prepared to write them off in terms of winning the NFC East and making the playoffs. Surely. I'm just mostly curious now, do they embrace the tank or do they try to go get a quarterback?
Yeah, I think with the NFC East, I don't see any reason they should be favored over Washington or New York. They should be the 4th favorite in that division. Obviously, the Eagles should be the clear favorite. Cowboys' next 5 games, home to Bengals, at Giants, home to Commanders, at Rams, at Eagles. That feels like 1-4, which would push them to 1-5. And in terms of the way the market has reacted to Dak going out, even with all the other injuries, if Dak was there, I would have made that match home to Cincinnati next week around pick. And now it's just moved right now to 7. It's Bengals -7. So the market is saying that Cooper Rush from Dak Prescott, that's a touchdown swing, that's Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. That's the same move that happened when Green Bay played Kansas City last year. So that's pretty significant. There's lots of ripple effects. At halftime, I was texting some mutual friends of ours saying that I think Mike Parsons should be plus 400 for DPOY. Now that team is a disaster. And even with his 2 sacks last night, he's not going to get nearly as many pass rushing opportunities. And the past 15 winners of Defensive Player of the Year, they've all been on teams with winning records. That's now a very long proposition for the Cowboys. So I think it's just a wait and see to see the level of catastrophe with this team. But just quickly, is there an underdog between the Commanders and the Giants in the NFC East that you would like to maybe threaten the Eagles, who are clearly the favorite right now?
Yeah. I think actually the major takeaway, and this is, we went on and on about the Eagles having a soft schedule. Most of that wasn't even the teams they were playing. It was their opposing quarterback matchups. And now you take two Dak Prescott matchup, or, at least one, Prescott matchup out of the way there. And maybe if he ends up not playing at all this season, or if the team itself just goes into a very different mode of competing, then that makes their NFC East hopes and their chances of the 1 seed that much greater. Of the Commanders and the Giants, I thought the Giants were relatively lucky to get that win, although it was fun to see them kind of play the 2-point conversion at the end there to just go for the, hey, we're winning or losing this game on this play. We're not going to, chance it with overtime here, which is what you want to do when you are the underdog in that situation, as far as I can tell you. So the Commanders also very lucky to get the win against the Jaguars. I think both of those teams probably miss out on the playoffs, but they're going to have some fun opportunities to bet on and to bet against this season.
Yeah, interesting. I actually go the other way on the Giants decision just because there was over a minute left. And by going for 2 there, you're basically forcing Tennessee to be aggressive, whereas Mike Vrabel was definitely just running it into the line 3 times in a tie game and forcing overtime. But yeah, I think that the Commanders were the more impressive team of those two, just because they were -2 in turnovers and they still won by 6 against the Jacksonville team, who, you and I thought would be relatively decent. And Jahan Dotson, who is now the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm not sure how long that is going to last, but he looked great yesterday with McLaurin. It was the full Carson Wentz experience, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Great introduction for Commanders fans, what they're going to be looking at the rest of this season. But we have a lot of time to talk about the NFC East, for better or worse. I think those discussions might be pretty rough over the course of the season outside of the Eagles. Now, in case you missed it, Matthew Berry's new show, Fantasy Football Happy Hour, which I am on in 64 minutes. That's why I'm wearing a not insubstantial amount of makeup and why my hair is a bit more stable than it usually is. But Matthew Berry, he is back with NBC and Roto World, doing what he does best, rolling out his love-hate list, breaking down who to start and sit, and much more. And there's also plenty of actionable betting information along the way for sports bettors as well. Yesterday, I think betting defeated fantasy on the Fantasy Football pregame show by unanimous decision. A lot of betting chat with me, Matthew, and Michael Smith yesterday. So check out the show on weekdays in the afternoon, 12 p.m. Eastern on Peacock, or listen to the show in podcast form wherever you download and subscribe. And there's also, like I said, the pregame show on Peacock on Sundays at 11 Eastern. Now, let's talk about week 2. Early season NFL lines, they do move around a lot from Sunday night, Monday morning until what they're going to end up on Sunday. It was a lot of movement just yesterday morning with what was happening with Chiefs, Cardinals, Eagles, Lions. Those lines, a lot of favorites firming significantly. What stands out to you on the board right now for week 2?
Well, I want to go right to Thursday Night Football because I talked to a bunch of smart people, I think you included, and we were trying to think, well, what has to happen with that Chiefs game in order to get 3.5 points for the Chargers? Because preseason, at least, I looked at the Chargers-Chiefs matchup and I thought, perfect. This defense against that offense is kind of a match made in heaven. This is going to be a competitive effort for these Chargers. And then watching the Chiefs do what they did yesterday, all of a sudden I'm sitting here and I'm, a little trigger shy, a little cooled off about enthusiasm of betting this Chargers team, even getting the hook here. Kansas City was just absolutely perfectly efficient. It felt like on offense, anything that they wanted to do looked like it was going to work. And I want to blame a lot more of that on the Arizona defense and expect that this Chargers defense is still going to be able to find a way, especially with the short week with a little less time to prepare. Kansas City's not going to be able to roll out a ton of new sets, a ton of new looks. I think this is still the right side here with the Chargers. I think you need to wait for a flat 3.5 because I would expect there will be a little bit of more support for Kansas City after how superlative that performance was yesterday. Do you think that I can afford to wait for the 3.5 to get a little bit lower here, or do I need to act more quickly?
I think it's going to be 3.5. I think that's what the line will be, and that's going to depend a lot on Keenan Allen's status. I thought yesterday he was no chance to play Thursday. Now it's looking like he may possibly play. That will have an impact on the line. The Chargers, they're a team that consistently does tend to firm throughout the week, just like the Eagles were the number one team last year in that regard. To be fair, the Chiefs do as well. But I think 3.5 is the right number. The Chargers are the team with more injury concerns. I really want to like the Chargers more, but why are they running the ball 31 times yesterday for 2.5 yards per carry against the Raiders? Like, they have this weird thing where Brandon Staley is about the most progressive coach in the league with his fourth down decision-making, with his aggressiveness. And then at the offensive coordinator level, they're just about the most destructively conservative team in the league. Why aren't they airing it out against the Raiders defense? That's not exactly intimidating. So, I mean, do you share those concerns about the Chargers and their play calling really kind of limiting their upside?
Absolutely. They are not in the discussion with there are two elite teams in the NFL right now. It is the Bills and the Chiefs, and everyone else is playing for third in my mind, including the Chargers, who I want to back against the Chiefs this week. But the major drawback is their offensive play calling, their sequencing, and their decision, the overall kind of scheme. All of it is uninspiring. In the back of my head, I had hoped that Staley had taken Lombardi to some sort of kind of plus EV school of offense over the summer and just beaten it into his head. Hey, man, these are the concepts that we believe in, and you got to run your offense this way. We did not see it yesterday. Didn't end up mattering because the Raiders' offensive line was so atrocious. But ultimately, they're going to need to perform a lot better, and maybe they are keeping a good game plan under their hat for this game. Surely the Chargers had this one circled. Before the season even started, we're going into KC in prime time. We're going to take that game, and we're going to install ourselves as the favorite in the AFC West. And I think that becomes a little bit more of the decision making beyond even just the flat 3.5. This is a huge leverage, early season leverage on that division crown. And so, Chargers win this game, you're not going to see another price like you can get right now until, much later in the season. So that's the other key decision-making point I'm going to be going through this week.
Definitely. And if the Chiefs, if they win that game, then go back Patrick Mahomes to win MVP, because he should be favorite over Josh Allen. If they win that game, establish themselves as clear favorites in the AFC West. We're going to break that game down in a lot of detail on Thursday's show. We'll talk props, side, total. So look out for that. The game that I was looking at, particularly last night, was the Dolphins plus 4.5 against the Ravens. That line has already ticked down to plus 4. I would expect that it will close at 3.5. That's where I think it will end up. And this will get your accounts shut down quickly. But a little thing is that when a team starts to accumulate injuries during Sunday, books are very slow to move the next week's line. So when the Ravens started, they lose another offensive lineman. Marcus Peters didn't play. J.K. Dobbins, it doesn't really affect the line that much, but it's just another little thing. And this Baltimore team, which was defined by injuries last season in a way that can't even really remember a team that was that decimated by injuries. And the Titans lost more games to injuries, but Baltimore, with the caliber of players they lost last year, just sunk their team. And now it's not to the same extent, but it's not a great start. The Dolphins looked phenomenal against the Patriots. All the Mike McDaniel hype it seemed to be justified yesterday, at least, although the Patriots do look like team disaster along with the Cardinals potentially. So I expect that the line will drop to 3.5. So I would still be taking the plus 4. Are you with me there on the Dolphins?
Yeah, we agree. I already have a bet in pocket. I'll be adding more as limits come up here. I think the Miami Dolphins are absolutely live in this matchup. And honestly, at reasonably full strength, or at least with a healthy Lamar Jackson, Miami took it to this team last year in prime time.
No,
destroyed him.
Lost, 22-10. Lamar Jackson can't handle the blitz.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's granted it's a new head coach, but same D coordinator. And so the likelihood that Miami is going to have some good matchup strategies, and that defense was live yesterday. Melvin Ingram, nice fit. And just in general, I think this is going to be a competitive game. I think you have to take the points. I think Miami's live, and I would expect the betting market. I mean, this early in the season, things get aggressive, this could get to 3, particularly if the injury news continues to come in poorly for Baltimore. And I thought Baltimore was much more the fortunate receivers of a Joe Flacco performance, more so than they were, deserving of some huge laudits for how great they played.
Yep, can definitely see it getting to 3. And a couple things to look out for. One, Lamar Jackson didn't run the ball yesterday. Now, it wasn't really the game script for him to do that and take those risks, but that's just something to look out for with everything going on with Lamar, if he's actually going to be the guy who is activating full-on Lamar Jackson. And then also, Lamar Jackson should be the best player in NFL history against the blitz. And he's been absolutely devoured by it last season, particularly against the Dolphins. So that's another thing to look out for. Now, just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, Major League Baseball, and on the NASCAR circuit and in the Premier League. There is also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Vikings and Eagles in our Sunday Night 7 contest. Now, let's close out talking about the game tonight. It's going to be a lot of attention around it, a lot of storylines that just naturally create a lot of content around Russell Wilson going back to Pete Carroll and Seattle. The line is ticking up towards 7. It's bouncing between 6.5, 7. The Broncos naturally favored. What are you attacking in this game? First
of all, best of luck to anyone who wants to be the resistance on Seattle. Don't exactly know why you're doing that, but best of luck to you. This should close 7 in my opinion. I think the Broncos are a play at 6.5. I wouldn't lay more than -110 on it, but fairly small edge for me in this game as far as sides go over the balance of this week. I think Broncos fair price for me is a little over 7 relative to the Seahawks team, and the Seahawks have gotten a lot of a lot of attention for the quarterback position and going forward with Geno Smith here, because that is the most significant downgrade from last season to this season at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson to Geno Smith is an enormous gap. And while Geno Smith is still capable, he's not a bottom 3 quarterback in this league. And he has probably the most decent offensive line that Seattle has rostered in a long time. He is still running a system that in general is not taking advantage of their, most key weapons at wide receiver. And then you look at the other side of the ball, and I have questions at all 3 levels on this defense. And so I think really that's the, how this game breaks. The Broncos being able to exercise a new kind of unexpected look offensively with how Russell fits with these pieces, how Nathaniel Hackett wants to, just in general, marry his concepts with Russell's talents. I think you're going to be able to see some pretty efficient offense from them up against the Seattle defensive unit that I have very low opinion of. And so Denver playing with the lead is the game state I would expect here. And Denver with the lead, Denver, Seattle with the lead figured out ways to let teams back in constantly and win close games. And that was sort of a telltale, even of when they were winning and succeeding in Seattle, of just how are they winning these close games every single week. I would not expect that is sort of their mindset in this one. I would, even narrative based as it is, Russell Wilson trying to have a standout performance in his, back in Seattle would be my expectation. Denver team total points over is a fair look as well. I think that their ceiling is in the 30s. And then Seattle being able to score some catch-up points here is not off the table as well. So I have this total should be 46. It's 44. And I have the side should be 7.5 and it's 6.5. So looking for basically anything positive out of Denver's offense.
Okay, that's an interesting look. Yeah, I don't love this game. I think that if it gets to 7, I think that 7 is the fair line. I would probably slightly lean Seattle at 7 just because the total is so low. I think that they will be running the ball a lot. There will be a lot of clock being bled, but don't really love the side or the total in this game personally. I do think there are some prop opportunities. I think that Rashad Penny over 16.5 rushing attempts. He cleared that handily towards the end of last season in his last 3 games. I think that Rashad Penny, or at least Pete Carroll, is kind of game script agnostic, where he's just going to run the ball. I don't think they're going to let Geno Smith cook. There's a bad rushing defense on Denver last season. Should be improved, but Rashad Penny who quietly, the best running back over the last 6 weeks of last season wasn't Jonathan Taylor. It was Rashad Penny. He led the league in yards per carry despite being on that Seattle team. Also like Albert O to go over 25.5 receiving yards. That is starting to tick up. You'll still be able to get that number some places where the Seahawks had the 26th ranked defense against tight ends last season. I think Russell Wilson will target Albert O. I don't really care that he was playing in preseason games when the starters weren't, just because there's no one else. So he's going to have to play at tight end. So those would be a couple of looks. And if the number does stay at 6.5, then I think I would be taking the Broncos with you there. Drew, we're done. First Monday show of the season. Lots to talk about. We're going to have a lot to break down the rest of the week as well. We'll dive into the NFC North and how the Packers look like the worst team in the NFC North. We'll break that down tomorrow, amongst other things. But don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. I am Jay Croucher. You are Drew Dinsick. We'll be back tomorrow.